Waiting for it to come up. All right, hello. This is the December 5th, 2023 meeting of the Node.js Loaders team. We have two items on the agenda about exports for loading modules to help with instrumentation, and a case of that can cause a deadlock with the threads. And we have Brian and Ayan here from Datadog to discuss the first one. So, all right, why don't I let you guys take it from. So we've been talking on that thread about like various options. I guess like just to understand the scope of the problem, like one of the I just asked this morning if there a question on there of like, so it sounds like you have like a predefined list of modules that you're patching, right?
Sort of. So the way our current implementation works is we are patching everything in order to enable this sort of backdoor for mutability, because we don't necessarily know until we're partway through our like main thread initialization process which things we're going to want to instrument. This is something we could probably change in the future. It's a design decision that was made a long time ago. But it is the current state of affairs, and it also makes it easy to have the same main thread API for instrumentation that we do for require in the middle. So we end up being able to pass the same hooks to both require in the middle and import in the middle.
Well, I mean, like regardless of, okay, I guess literally you're patching everything, but I mean like you're putting a wrapper in front of everything, but I'm assuming for most things it's a no op, like, right?
Right. For most things, it's just re-exporting and then we're done. And the wrapper, Ian's actually working on a PR that actually removes the wrapper and instead puts everything in the same file. It just basically does the rewrite. Because we're already parsing, we might as well parse, add the stuff we need at the bottom, and rebuild that with what is it? What's the library you're using, Ian?
Um,
Recast?
Acorn and Recast, yeah.
Right. And we can use optimal ones later on. This is mainly to make sure we've got the functionality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I guess I was going to say the other thing that we're doing was we're also kind of modifying the original code, because since we're embedding the user's code and then exporting it or changing or passing it to our own setters, we have to change the variable type of certain variables and
right.
certain default variables, stuff like that.
So basically, if a const is exported, we need to change it to a let so that we can change it. That's all. That's on Ian's current branch, which is currently in review. But the main idea there is we can avoid the wrapper module, and that eliminates a bunch of bugs involving things like circular dependencies, and also gives us the ability to not have that additional module for every single module that's loaded, right? So that's a win there as well. But
okay,
to answer your original question, which is yes, we do have a list of things that we do need to patch. We don't currently have it on the loader thread. It's something we could do though.
right. So, but how long is this list? Like, how many? I mean, it's like whatever, like every version of Express, say, and every version of body parser. Is it something like,
yeah, so it's
500 known packages or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't tell you exactly how many if we count each individual version. We basically isolate it by ranges, right? So for just taking as Express as an example, we'll have a set of Semver ranges for Express. And if we take the number of modules that we have some kind of hooking on like that, some kind of shimming on, it's something on the order of 50-ish.
Oh, so not that many.
Not that many today, yeah.
And does it make sense? like rather than doing all of this parsing on the fly at runtime, like I mean, I'm sure it's not the same patches for every version of Express, but like, you know, could it be something where like within your package or within your library, you just have like, well, here's the patched version of Express for these ranges, and here's the patched version of Express for these other ranges. And so then it's like in the load hook, it's like, okay, this is Express slash index.js or whatever. Figure out what version of Express that is. Go find the patched version from your, bag of patched files over here, and just return yours instead of theirs,
Yeah, I
rather
mean
than patching it on the fly.
yeah. So that's basically one of the ways we could do it in terms of just having it all on disk, right? But I guess the advantage of that approach is that also one of the approaches you had mentioned this morning was basically modifying them on disk. The what you just suggested just now though sounds a little bit more ideal because we don't have to change anything on disk. We just have to take the already patched modules. They can even be just somewhere in our source tree. It doesn't really matter, and replace them in the resolve hook. We don't even have to do anything with the load hook, right?
Oh, that's true. I guess you could just resolve to yours and directly. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's an
regardless of where it's, either you resolve to a different file or you return different source, it's the same in the end. But yeah.
yeah. That's
Um,
certainly an angle we could take. Hadn't thought of that one.
well, I mean, the advantages in my mind should be faster, right? Because you're not like loading the file and parsing it and doing all this work, right? Um, and then it opens up the possibility of having like bespoke patches if you really want to. Like if you wanted to have a hand done patch for a particular library, you could and just save it right there. And then it doesn't have to be something that's algorithmically generated.
Yeah, there's a few caveats there. Like one is dealing with the multiple versions. Um, that might be fine though, because we could probably handle that.
You'd have to save it under like express slash, 0.0.0 hyphen 1.2.3 or whatever the version range slash, and then like the patched version of the module or something like that.
Yeah, we would need to get the version though, and we'd probably have to do that by reading the package JSON in the resolve hook.
Right. I mean, which you could do right now. You're
yeah,
getting the URL that it resolves to. So then
yeah.
you could like search the disk to find the nearest parent package.json and get the version number out of it. I mean, Node already knows that information. So we could provide a helper for that, but that doesn't help you for older versions of Node that wouldn't have such a helper. But I mean, it is something you could just do yourself. It would just mean, more
Yeah,
disk time.
it would be a interesting nice to have feature, but we certainly could do it today just by reading the package JSON. I mean, it's what we're
And it
doing
wouldn't be that
already.
expensive. Like once you start caching them, it's like, well, node module slash something slash package.json, like it's going to be like you could go directly right there for like you could just look at the absolute URL and be like, okay, find the node modules in there, subfolder, and then like it should be very fast to find it, is what I'm saying. And then you could cache it, and so other files within the same package should be immediate.
Yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. That does mean a potential departure from our current approach, which is having one basically hook function that will work for both require in the middle and import in the middle, because currently we have to run both. But in the future, we wouldn't have to run both, right? Because everything ends up going through the import, like the ESM loader, right?
Well, the load hook already supports CommonJS. Like, I don't know. I mean, that was added fairly recently, so it's not like it covers every use case that anyone ever does for monkey patching CommonJS.
Yeah,
And of course,
which
it runs on
direction?
a separate. I'm sorry.
Well, so which direction? So like, um, We say it supports CommonJS. Does that mean like basically if you have an entirely CommonJS app and dependencies, it still goes through there? Or is it specific interactions with ESM?
I think so. Antoine is the one who knows because he's the one who implemented it, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, if, even for an entire CommonJS app, like that was like so the earlier behavior for like the last several years was that the loader hooks supported any import.
Yeah.
So whether you used static or dynamic import, regardless of what the target was, whether it was a JSON file, CommonJS files, ESM file, whatever, if you used import as your method of, as opposed to require, then it was going through the hooks. He did an update so that require also worked the same way, so that require will, I forget if it goes to the resolve hook and the load hook, or at least, or maybe just the load hook. But yeah, like I think it's at least the load hook can return different sources to require, so that this is the idea, is that we want to eliminate monkey patching the CommonJS loader, which has never been a supported API.
Right.
And so it's like it would be much preferable to have an actual supported API that could do everything that people were doing with monkey patching. And because like right now we can't like refactor anything in the CommonJS loader, because like the moment we change the tiniest thing, it breaks somebody because they're monkey patching it.
Right.
And eventually we would, like ideally I would get rid of the CommonJS loader entirely. It's not doing anything that the ESM loader can't do. Like the ESM loader can load CommonJS, right? So why are we maintaining this whole separate like infrastructure over here? We could just get rid of it if not for this monkey patching use case. So that's where we'd like to get to gradually over the next few years. So for the first step to that is like, okay, well, can the hooks cover all the use cases for monkey patching? And if not, what are the missing ones?
Yeah, so I think it actually gets a little bit hairier in CommonJS now that I think about it. And part of the reason for that is one of the things that ESM affords us is the ability to change bindings even after they're retrieved, right? So basically, if somebody is making a reference to an imported value in one ESM module, and that other module that's being imported from changes what that value is by reassigning the export, that works, right? We don't necessarily have that with CommonJS because they're just values being passed around. So that makes it a little bit more difficult without having the ability to intercept basically after a module has been parsed and evaluated, but before it gets to whoever's requiring it, right? That piece from monkey patching might be missing unless we just always depend on source transforms. Source transforms, of course, get a little bit more complicated because that means we have to parse and so on and so forth. But it's still certainly doable.
Like it's transforming the source either at runtime or ahead of time, and you just like load it from a little.
Well, at runtime we're not transforming source; we're transforming objects, or at least that's the current way for CommonJS.
Right. I was thinking more of ESM.
Right.
Like Ion's current branch.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was gonna say. The other thing about CommonJS though is that like it's you can't assume that it's the same export for CommonJS or ESM. Like there could be like there are those like the exports field in package.json where it's like, if this package is required, serve this. If it's imported, serve that. So there's also that complication of like, I guess you have to use the hooks essentially, like to rewrite like if Express ever published an ESM version, for example, then you need to I guess, rewrite it within the load hook or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, just like we do today for any ESM modules, yeah. So that wouldn't really change.
So yeah, I'm not saying necessarily to go with the loaded from disk approach. It was just an idea, whatever you think
Yeah,
makes the most
it's I
sense.
mean, at this point, definitely open to any kind of ideas. That might be more compelling later on once like once we drop support for older versions of Node and once well actually that's basically it, once we drop support for older versions of Node, because we have to do things going pretty far back without the use of um common JS capable loader hooks and so on. Like do you recall off the top of your head like which of our active release lines, what's the oldest version of Node we support?
14.
Is it 14?
I think so, yeah. V3, 14.
V3 supports 14 at the lowest? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's not too long ago. I think loader hooks existed back then, although they were quite different, but
yeah, they were quite different. So like import in the middle has a lot of if Node version stuff inside it, but that's the reality of an experimental API. Now, but yeah, I think
I mean the other option is like potentially supporting ESM apps could have a different support matrix. Like, we only support ESM apps from Node 20 and up or something like that. I don't know. That's a product question, I suppose, but
yeah, I definitely couldn't answer the viability of that one just yet, but
but I mean, if that were possible, that could potentially save you a lot of work, because like we've already backported just about everything in the current Loaders API to 18. And I think the plan is to continue doing so. Like we just landed a minor in 18 a few weeks ago that caught it up with all of the modules changes that have landed in the last couple months. So 18, 20, and 21 should all be pretty much, they should be mostly identical in terms of the hooks API.
yeah, at least at their latest versions.
The latest minors, yeah. I mean, I guess that's the other thing is like, do you support every minor within a major? But
I mean, we don't publicly state much on that front, but the reality is our customers are running just about anything. So we'll do our best, right?
yeah, so anyway, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, I think even the loaders API back in 14 should be able to do the like, patch the source code approach, right? So like you could kind of use that, you could treat that as your like fallback that works for everything. And then for the newer versions of Node, there's potentially more performant solutions that are going to be easier to maintain. Like if we land something for mutating exports and things like that, that can
Yeah.
clean up the code for import in the middle, but then it has this like fallback mode or something like that.
Yeah, and I think your branch is actually passing all the way back to Node 12 right now, right?
Well, that's because we applied the original patch for nodes less than 16, and then 16 plus we do the AFD parsing and regenerating.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's not much point in supporting ESM before Node 12 because that's when the modern ESM implementation landed.
Yeah, we found that out with testing for sure. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, like as per our sort of later discussion, like the linked issue that we're sort of in theory talking about here, getting the list of exports is not really as interesting. It was just necessary for the approach we're taking before Ian's current PR, which is basically make sure everything is mutable. And in order to do that, we needed the names. But that was